I have no strong opinion if it's true or false.
Yeah. The dish sounds very interesting. I would be pretty... Actually, now that I'm thinking, I'm like, Soups could have invented that dish.
Yeah.
So I think this one is not going to come down to, can I remember? Because let's be real, we can't.
Nope.
It's going to come down to, do the other ones sound more possible?
That's it.
Well, do you know Canada's national dish?
Maple syrup?
Hello and welcome to this episode of I Should Have Known, the trivia game show that can't be trusted. Each week, one of our quizmasters will present you with 4 facts about a topic, but one of those facts is a lie. And for this month, we are putting the spotlight on Asia. So we'll be doing episodes celebrating the many countries and cultures of the world's largest continent. And to start out, our quizmaster this week is Soups.
Hi.
And he's going to be presenting you with 4 facts about Sri Lanka. But remember, one of his facts is a lie, so join me, Andy, and our other host, Tanner, in figuring out which one it is.
Okay.
I think it's good that you're inaugurating the Asian
Yeah,
one.
right. That seems only fitting, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, you are here. You represent your entire continent.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
No.
Okay, so we're talking about Sri Lanka. We'll embark on an extraordinary journey to
Okay.
this island nation.
Great.
4 big facts about this country. One of them, I made it up. But before we get going, where is Sri Lanka?
South of India.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's
It's a little, it's
how I
like
remember it.
teardrop-shaped
Yeah.
island.
yeah.
Let's do our PQQ, pub quiz question of the week.
It wasn't where is Sri Lanka?
I can pass that one.
What is the capital of Sri Lanka?
Is it Colombo?
Yes and no. Colombo is no longer the capital. It was recently changed to Sri Jayawardhanepura Kotti.
Great.
Oh, that was my second guess.
So they
my
moved
gosh.
all the admin buildings and everything.
Oh.
Colombo is still people still consider it the capital, but it's not the official
Okay.
capital
They
of Sri Lanka.
moved it.
Wow. What was the name again?
Sri Jayawardhanepura Kotti.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Just don't ask me to spell that.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
So you ready for the facts?
Ready.
Fact number 1. Sri Mambo Bandaranaike, who served as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, was the world's first female Prime Minister.
All right.
Okay.
I'm having flashbacks to our discussion of female leaders.
Yeah, I did an episode long ago. It was like about things that there are fewer than 100 of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And female heads of state or government was one of them. And I do feel like I remember this.
Sri Lanka was mentioned. Yeah. I have no strong opinion if it's true or false.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sri Lanka was ruled by the Portuguese, then the Dutch, and then the British. The country was granted independence from the British on 4th February 1948. Then it remained as a commonwealth and finally became a republic in 1972. So Srimavo Bandaranaike's husband, Solomon Bandaranaike, was the 4th Prime Minister of independent Sri Lanka, and he was assassinated in office in 1959.
Okay.
He was shot by a Buddhist monk.
Oh,
And yes, so his wife, Srimavo, was then chosen as like the chairperson of the party. She had no background in politics, and then she became the 5th Prime Minister.
oh,
Got
because the
it,
prime
got it.
minister is not elected by the people
No.
directly.
Right.
The party is elected by the
Correct.
people, and then the party picks the prime
Oh.
minister.
Right.
That's why whoever is the head of the party,
Right.
in a way, becomes the Prime Minister.
Yeah. So that maybe is confusing too.
Yeah, I mean,
Some
we should
people.
do an episode on like different government systems.
Oh,
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be fun.
Yeah.
Parliamentary elections.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
So I guess the question there is, was there someone before her, right? Because we have these dates and the history of her and her husband.
Right. It does seem like, okay, she existed. This whole story Soups didn't make up. It's the fact. Going back to the fact, is that where the lie is? Was there somebody else in some other country?
Yeah.
It's also one of those facts where you're like, who should have known this?
Yeah, this should be a well-known trivia thing.
Yeah. So it's like, oh no, I'm not sure.
Mm.
It's a very easy, there's one other one.
Yep.
Facts done.
Yep.
So I think this one is not going to come down to, can I remember? Because let's be real, we can't.
No,
It's going to come down to, do the other ones sound more possible?
that's it.
So
yeah.
we're going to have to hear more.
All right. Fact number 2. The word serendipity is said to have originated from Serendip, which is an old name for Sri Lanka.
Ooh. This is a fun one.
Okay, so we're getting etymological.
Serendipity is a really weird word.
So first, Merriam-Webster defines it as the phenomenon of finding valuable or agreeable things not sought for. The word was coined by Horace Walpole, who was an English writer and politician. He was also a man of letters. He wrote some 3,000 letters in his lifetime. Walpole was inspired by a fairy tale called The Three Princes of Serendip, which is an adaptation of the Persian poem Husht Bihisht. Serendip was actually an archaic name for Sri Lanka. Specifically, the Arabs gave them this name,
Okay.
which actually came from the Sanskrit word Simhala Dvipa, which means the dwelling place of Lion's Island.
Ah.
So when the Arabs were trading with Indians, that's how they heard this name.
Okay.
So Horace Walpole explained his creation in a letter dated January 28, 1754. I once read a silly fairy tale called The Three Princes of Serendip. As their highnesses traveled, they were always making discoveries by accidents and sagacity of things which they were not in quest of. Now, do you understand serendipity?
Okay.
That's a pretty good explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm obviously instantly skeptical because it sounds very much like a folk etymology. We had an episode on etymology where we talked about what a folk etymology is because like words are actually pretty boring. So humans like to invent these stories of like, oh, it's from something else. So I'm very skeptical on that. But at the same time, there are some words that are like this where this story would be real. One thing I was thinking is I thought Sri Lanka had a different old-timey name,
Yeah.
but I can't remember.
Ceylon.
Correct.
Yeah, Ceylon.
But
Yeah.
that's the name that the British,
British.
Yeah.
Yeah.
gave them.
Yeah, right.
It is a very colorful story, like with him writing the letter and the explanation and this fairy tale that they say and the name coming from many different peoples. Like, yeah, that sounds like a good story, like you're saying.
Yeah, and the time period tracks. So this would be in the same era as like Jonathan Swift and Voltaire. Like it sounds very Candide.
They're talking about like fantasy lands and stuff.
And we know that many words like this, you know, Lilliputian and Panglossian,
Yeah.
like these words come from those stories. And we know that.
Right.
So
That makes sense.
this could be another one of those. Oh, I'm thrown off a little bit by the ending.
Like how he made it into a
Itty, because there are lots of itty words.
into a noun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Serendipity. Okay.
But this word serendipity was obscure for a long time. It was rarely used. It only became famous in the 20th century.
That's what's the other interesting thing about this is like if this guy made it up in a letter, well, then how did it get out into the world? You know, like he wrote it to one person. Did he use it that much? Was he talking?
Well, I think
did
it was
spread like
in the
wildfire?
book he's saying.
Yeah.
That was a word he used in the book. And then
Yeah.
he explained to his friend how he came up with this word.
Right.
So like whenever someone says that they made up a word, I'm very skeptical because it's like, well, how does it spread that much? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting story. I'm very skeptical of it.
Yeah. And it's like also the trick of like, I could believe someone on the internet said this.
Yeah, I've never heard the fairy tale, never heard this name, so
It's got Gulliver's Travels and Candide vibes.
yeah. So now I have sort of a frame here. The first one sounds more believable, the second one sounds less, so let's hear the third.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, whenever we travel to Asia, it can be that we don't talk about food, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to do a whole episode on food.
Have you had Sri Lankan food before? Just before I go on with this
I mean,
fact?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Fact number 3. Chingri macher malai curry is the national dish of Sri Lanka.
A curry.
Okay, a curry. That seems okay.
Sure.
Even though both India and Sri Lanka share the same roots for cuisine, there's some clear distinction between Indian and Sri Lankan curries.
Okay.
First is the generous use of coconut milk.
Okay.
Second, Sri Lankan curries are more broth-like.
Okay.
Indian curries are thicker,
Okay.
more sauce.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
And then the spices that are used are different. In Sri Lanka, they use a lot more blended spice. In India, you use like cumin, coriander separately, right? Like you put them,
okay.
so they just mix multiple, and then cardamom, cinnamon is the land of cinnamon. Sri
Yeah,
Lanka.
right.
Yeah. So chingri machar malai curry. Malai means clotted cream.
Okay.
Oh.
It's a major ingredient for making desserts in the subcontinent. Chingri is used for both prawn and shrimp, but mostly refers to jumbo prawns. This is a rich coconut gravy made from coconut cream and coconut milk. And when you break down the words, Malai curry literally means cream curry.
Mm-hmm.
This dish is cooked on all celebratory occasion and feasts, especially when the son-in-law visits his wife's family for the first time for dinner.
Okay. I like the breakdown of the different words or the
Yeah.
different parts of the words
Yeah.
because then it makes it easier for me to make sense
So it's
of it.
basically shrimp cream curry.
Yeah. I was very surprised when you said the clotted cream.
Yeah.
Because I don't associate that with Asia so much.
Like
but
milk, dairy products.
exactly,
Yeah, especially Southern Asia. But it's not, it's coconut
it's
cream.
coconut milk, which makes so much more sense. Yeah.
Malai is a generic word for clotted cream. It is also for cow.
Okay.
Any
This
sort.
dish
But
is
this
made,
one is the
yeah,
coconut version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's you can make clotted cream with other milks,
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose. Okay. I mean, the dish sounds very interesting. I would be pretty actually, now that I'm thinking, I'm like, Soups could have invented that dish.
Yeah.
Could have just made that dish up. I mean, it's
Sure.
just creamy, coconutty
Shrimp.
shrimp curry.
Yeah.
But also, those foods fit the cuisine of the region,
Right.
as far as I know, which is limited, but something. So, like, I don't know. Now I'm like thinking, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, Soups is a good cook, so, So, like, Soups could have made that up.
Also sounds really
It sounds
good.
like a real dish. I mean, like, I can't imagine that no one ever put shrimp and cream together in a curry before. So,
Yeah.
like, that's tricky. And it's the big fact is that it is the national dish. So that's another area where it's like, if we believe the dish is real and invented by Sri Lankans and not Soups,
Yeah.
there's still the question of, is it the national dish?
Right.
And if it isn't, is the national dish something that Soups thinks we should know?
Yeah.
That's a tall order.
Yikes.
That's very tricky. But this is the first one where I'm like, I could see where Soups made something up.
I would put this one on the skeptical scale. I would say this is in between the first two. I'm believing it more than the second one.
Yeah. Would you eat that?
Absolutely. I would order
Sounds
that in a heartbeat.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might have to get some later today.
Well, we could ask Soups to make it for
Maybe
us since
Soups
he
will make it
invented
for us. Yeah. Get that recipe.
Okay, all right.
All right. Okay. So we're getting places now.
Yeah.
We're learning a lot of things.
Yeah.
We have one more fact.
Yes. All right. Fact number 4. Sri Lanka switched to tea cultivation because their coffee plantations wiped out in less than a decade.
Whoa. So I didn't even know Sri Lanka made coffee.
If this fact is true, then it doesn't.
Yeah.
We all know about Sri Lankan tea.
Yes.
It's one of the top exporters of tea worldwide, just behind China.
And the fact that it's so much smaller than China really
Yes,
says a
exactly.
lot,
Yeah. But Sri Lanka actually started out with coffee. Coffee was introduced to Sri Lanka by the Arabs. And then when the Dutch ruled the country, they sort of looked after the plantations. In the olden days, Sri Lanka exported almost 50,000 tons of coffee per year.
Whoa.
But in 1869, Sri Lanka's coffee plantations suffered a new plant disease called coffee rust. As a result, the entire enterprise was destroyed in less than a decade.
Jeez.
So the first recorded tea plant in Sri Lanka was from 1824 when the Britishers brought over a few leaves as an experiment. It was non-commercial. Then they got some leaves brought in from Assam and Calcutta. And after the washout of the coffee industry, the country pivoted towards tea. A Scotsman named James Taylor, he was the pioneer. He sent the first shipment of Sri Lankan tea to the London Tea Auction in 1875. And by 1965, Sri Lanka became the world's largest tea exporter. And then China took over.
So I'm glad we brought up tea. And I also appreciate that you couldn't talk about tea without dropping a little Assam mention.
Gotta do that.
Gotta just drop that in there. I like that. So it made perfect sense when it's the Arabs brought coffee to Sri Lanka because that's exactly where it would grow well.
Right. It's between the tropics.
Yep.
So it can grow coffee.
Yeah. But then I was thinking, why have I never heard of Sri Lankan coffee?
Yeah.
I mean, I think now they must have some bars.
They do have some, but now it's more what is it? Artisanal. Artisanal coffee.
Right.
They're not like a commercial.
They're not a big name.
Big business. Yeah.
And then so this story about that timing, in the 19th century, it's that's when the British get in there and they're like, tea, baby, all the tea. I mean, I don't have any reason to not believe this one.
Right. To me, the fact that it was wiped out in a decade is kind of surprising, but also I know that plants can really get messed up when they're like a monoculture sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I would expect they would be if they were brought in from one species. But the fact that it was then replaced by tea, I think is definitely true.
Yeah,
like it's
that
a
tracks.
tea producer
Like,
now. That has to be
yeah,
true.
exactly. We know they do tea. So the story of how do you become such a giant in tea production? Well, if you got nothing else going on.
Right.
Yeah, so it could kind of make sense. But compared to the other facts, there's just, to me, so much less to question. I mean, literally, did we think Soups invented an entire, like, coffee disease?
Blight? Yeah.
Blight upon all of coffee and just is like, yeah.
He hates Sri Lankan coffee that much.
Yeah, right?
He's like,
He's like, I'm going to make up a fact
it's
about
trash. It
it's
should have been
trash.
destroyed in the 1800s.
Right? Like, so this is a very interesting, unbelievable fact.
Yeah.
But in a way that sounds truthful.
Yeah, it's
Like
one of those nuggets from history that's like, oh, wow, no way.
Yeah, like, I think it would be harder to invent this fact than
Yeah.
to just say it.
I like this one.
Tanner's really into the coffee one.
Right. We figured that.
Are you
surprise.
surprised at all?
That's why I tried to cater to your interests.
Yes.
Linguistics,
Thank you.
coffee,
Yes.
food, you know.
Okay. Well, wow, this was really informative, except you've been lying to us about the wonderful country of Sri Lanka. So could you please repeat your 4 facts and then we will make our official guesses at which one we think is a lie.
Sure. Fact number 1. Shrimavo Bandaranaike, who served as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, was the world's first female Prime Minister. Fact number 2. The word serendipity is said to have originated from Serendip, which is an old name for Sri Lanka. Fact number 3. Chingri machar malai curry is the national dish of Sri Lanka. And fact number 4. Sri Lanka switched to tea cultivation because their coffee plantations wiped out in less than a decade.
As skeptical as I am about etymologies and folk etymologies, I think that one might actually be real.
Okay.
Like, that would be a really super impressive lie.
Right.
So he nailed that era. It's like, that's exactly when they were like talking about Shangri-La,
Exactly.
like made
That's what I
up
was just
fantasy
thinking.
places
Yeah.
in Asia and writing these epic journeys on like, you know, all these travelers going like to the moon or to
Yeah.
all these fantastical places
Yeah.
and inventing weird words, which we actually still use. So it's either it's real or Soups just stole one of those and is
Yeah.
making up. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably not what happened.
Yeah, I really like that way of thinking. If it's not Serendip was this island, then it's like Nepal or Tibet. Like it's some other exotic place. I think that would be the lie.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
I think that he invented that dish, though.
Then you have to say it.
What?
You have to say the name of the dish.
I hate you so
Come
much. Okay. Chingri machar malai curry. I think he invented that because
Okay.
I know Soups, he's a good cook. He could invent a curry. And he knows we don't know shit.
Just double check. Do you guys know Sri Lanka? No, you don't. Okay.
And I was also like, okay, the way he just like ripped through that name of that word,
Yeah.
like I'm like, you were sitting and practicing this because like you don't speak Sinhala, I don't think. Like what? It might have like, learned new things about Soups. So feel like maybe that's what happened. Feel like he invented that one.
I think that he knows the name because it's the national dish of the neighboring country to his.
Well, do you know Canada's national dish?
Maple syrup?
What's what's
Yeah.
Mexico's national dish? You know what I mean? Like that argument doesn't
I'm
really
just
hold a
gonna
lot
get
of
roasted by Mexicans if I try to guess.
You know what I'm saying though? Like I don't know if that's a great argument.
Okay. Well, time to make your choices.
That's right.
That's my choice.
Yeah.
You
okay.
invented that curry.
Okay, you
Okay.
got the curry. I'm going with serendipity.
Okay.
See how serendipitous
Yeah.
this is.
Okay. So let's start with the good news, which is that fact 1 and 4 are true.
Great.
Nice. All right.
Shrimavo, she was the world's first female, and then there was coffee plantation. So fact number 3 is a lie. And actually, the lie was written all throughout the fact, as I was saying. First of all, this dish exists. I did not make it up.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite dish. Like
Okay.
I
Okay.
would love to have invented this, but when I was describing curries, I said Indian curries are thicker, Sri Lankan curries are more broth-like. And then when I described this, I said
It's
this was
coconut cream is thick.
rich coconut gravy. Yeah. So the reason why I could spell this dish so well, even though I don't speak Sinhala, because this is a Bengali dish.
Okay,
we
so
go.
that makes sense.
There we
So that's
go.
why I was like, that gave it away for me when
Yeah.
you were like, he just says that like that's his
Yeah.
mother tongue right
Yeah.
there. You know
He's
what
not
I
even
mean? Because
struggling.
it's like he's not struggling. Like,
I
listen
should
to me
have
struggle
made
through.
it like harder for myself.
Yeah,
to
yeah, and it's like you're not from anywhere near Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
No.
Like,
Chingri Machir Malakari is like a very traditional Bengali dish.
Okay.
The description and everything is
Right.
true. And the other part is that these jumbo prawns are found in fresh water.
Okay.
That's why it's
So, like
that's-
river shrimp.
River
So
shrimp.
not
yes.
on the island in the
so yeah,
ocean.
not in the ocean.
Yeah. So,
Man, if I
yeah.
knew more about shrimp, I would have gotten that in a hot sec.
Yeah.
Do you know how to make it?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We
Well, I know
can-
what we're
yeah.
having.
Well, first you have to marry his daughter. and
Oh,
then-
right. Okay.
All right, great.
Awesome.
Cool. I should have known.
I should have known.
Thanks for listening to this episode of I Should Have Known. We'll be continuing exploring Asia the rest of the month. Next week, I will be your quizmaster and I will be talking about dumplings. So if this episode made you hungry, get ready for that. This was just the amuse bouche. And as always, thanks for listening. Oh no. Tanner's face.